with Rashpool for Chiswick Riverside. And my question, when I wrote my question, it was going to be for Mary McLeod, but she's not here, so it's a bit of a damp squid. But I'm an accountant, and the question is, have any benefits of this scheme been subject to an independent audit? And what lies behind this question is that often the schemes put forward their financial benefits, those outbreak patients suffering, but then often even those financial benefits don't accrue. I mean, before I came, I was reading about a scandalous case where, because of lack of organisation, the NHS had to pay £3,000 for a local doctor. So that's my question. Have any financial benefits for this scheme been subject to an independent audit?
Okay, I'd like the candidates to hold that question in their head, and we'll have another question or comment because I want to get a little bit of flow going. You know.
Sorry, this is more point of information. I hope that people have been to see the Get London West website, which is the new local gazette for not Hounslow, but sorry, it does include Hounslow, doesn't it? Fulham, Hammersmith, and Ealing. Apparently, David Cameron came on Thursday, a flying visit of 1 hour, to bolster the morale of the Conservatives at their office in Hammersmith. And fortunately, Mr. Cameron made a couple of errors, which he persists in repeating numerous times, just endlessly. And fortunately, that gave Andy Slaughter the opportunity the next day to be interviewed by the Get London West, the Gazette, and to correct them. And talking of smoke and mirrors, he had a very telling comment. Go and have a look.
Thanks, Una. Una, I'm going to commandeer you, if I may, because would you mind taking this mic so that people can speak from the floor if you come out and do that? Thank you. And a lady called Sandra Greenwood has written a question. Does she want to speak?
I'm a resident of Chiswick, and Chiswick does come under Hounslow, by the way, so we'll leave this out. And I think briefly that this meeting isn't so well attended because it wasn't broadly advertised at this time. We all came last time. I owe my life to Charing Cross, being taken by car to A&E, not by blue light or anything, and seeing the experts being dealt with very quickly. If I'd been taken there and it was what they proposed, I wouldn't be standing here today. Which the other thing is, you know, what GPs are going to run that kind of A&E department? I have to wait 3 weeks to see my GP unless I can literally prove that I'm on the point of death that day. So where are they going to come from that are going to run A&E? It's just not possible that this would work. It's ridiculous.
Thank you, Sandra. Actually, that's such a good point because I think a number of the political parties have been talking about increasing the speed with which GPs are going to be seen. I think the Labour Party made a commitment about people being seen within 2 days. I think UKIP have made a commitment about opening GPs in the evening, and it's certainly part of the plan for North West London. One of the big issues about that is actually there isn't the capacity, actually there isn't the number of GPs here at the moment. And so whilst we all might like it, let's not pretend it can happen in a minute. It's actually a little politically dishonest perhaps. So with that maybe slightly biased chair reflection, I'm going to put it up to the panel to answer the questions. So one was about, has there been an independent audit? And one was about where the GP is going to come from. If I start with Simon, if you want to.
I'm not aware of an actual independent audit with regards to the closures. However, there still should be. But it's very important that we still got to keep these absolute emergency hospitals open. As I said before, twice I've experienced it. Again, I didn't use an ambulance to get to the hospital. It was some good friends who took me there quite quickly. So yeah, I'm very much strong that we should not be closing. I'm not aware of any independent audit particularly.
Well, I concur with what my friend had just said. But of course, citizens have at their disposal a tool called Freedom of Information Act 2000. I would urge, rather implore, and I will go one step further and say, solicit that please, pursuant to the Act, find out and put them on the stand. Then we will know the truth. They will have to disclose it, failing which they are in the breach of the Act, and they can fall foul of it. Penalty fees are very high. I have not heard any. I don't know if anybody else has.
Louise.
Thank you. As far as I'm aware, there's no independent audit, and I'm not surprised about that, because the feature of all these reorganisations across London is the complete lack of sound financial footings. They don't talk about money. They talk vaguely about let's increase community care without any serious plans to invest in them and without any serious sums of money. There is actually no evidence at all that better community care, which is a good thing in its own right, would actually reduce hospital admissions or that it would cost less. Our example in South East London, Lewis from Greenwich Bexley Bromley, when we had a reorganisation plan, was complete. This is McKinsey's, who got paid £6 million for doing this. They were out by a huge factor in their sums. So they said that the reorganisation of services in South East London would cost £250 million. And then when the Trust Development Authority came along and looked at their figures, they said, no, 450 million. So we're talking about people who actually don't know how to add up. And that's because these plans are flimsy, they're ideological, they're about closing hospitals, and there's just vague, wishy-washy things that don't make sense, and we need to ask those questions. Where's the money coming from? Where's the investment coming from? How do you know you can close all these hospitals and the community will somehow magically deal with it? And that brings me to GPs. I've been a GP in Lewisham for 20 years. First of all, GPs are working really extremely hard. We are seeing and managing far more kinds of problems than we did 20 years ago when I started out. Most of the chronic disease management is being done now in general practice. The average consultation rate in the last 10 years has gone up from 3 per patient per year to 6 consultations per patient per year. Our average consultation time has got longer because problems are more complex. The Royal College of GPs estimates we need 10,000 more GPs to meet demand. There's been an objective cut of £1 billion of GP funding in the last 4 years. So GPs are really under enormous strain. And the idea that as well as doing our job, which is we're not being aided to do, we're also going to somehow miraculously take on all the hospital work too and all the A&E work. It's a myth. I mean, the problem with A&E is not people not being able to get GP appointments. That's just a small part of it. The problem, the crisis in A&E is a crisis in beds. We have one of the lowest number of beds per head in Europe. There are no beds to admit people through from A&E into the hospital. So A&Es get chock-a-block, ambulances get backed up because they can't discharge their patients. More and more ambulances not meeting the half-hour target for discharging their patients, ambulances queuing up, then not able to go to the next emergency call, ambulances being late to arrive at emergencies, so the whole thing knocks on. This is the real story. And if they're planning in North West London to cut another 500 beds and close 4 A&Es, then you can see the problem is going to mount. And don't start blaming GPs, that's just another bunch of useful fall guys.
Well, I mean, I haven't heard of a financial audit. I don't think one exists. The more I've looked into this issue, it's all smoke and mirrors, as was mentioned, smoke and mirrors. Where do we start? The idea that it was saved is the first one, that Charing Cross has been saved,
No.
that the whole building will be knocked down, whole land will be knocked down, and a tiny unit will be put on top, means it's saved. I don't think that's really true, and people don't know that. The other one is that the A&E has been saved. That was something that Cameron said on his visit to Hammersmith, and the A&E will obviously have no consultants in it, so that is another lie. The next one is that it will be about care in the community. We don't need to go to hospitals. I mean, in this meeting here, in this room in February, Marcus Ginn from Hammersmith and Fulham Labour Group, Conservative Group, said that he said, what did he say again? Well, he said a lot of nonsense, but I'll tell you one thing he did say. Thank you. One thing he said that I was really surprised about was he said that they've already got architects looking at the land, and that we haven't even really discussed this, but architects are already looking at it. What's going on behind the scenes we don't have a clue about. The auditing, we don't know anything about that. There's no evidence for any of this. They even say it's not going to be demolished. They actually say it's a lie that the building will be demolished. But how can you actually build something? How can you have 100 beds on 15 floors with 4 separate wings? Is that 1 bed per wing? It just doesn't make any sense. And they say other things like it's not about money. Well, that's probably the biggest lie of the lot. It's not about money. It's about getting better care. Marcus Ginn said it would be nice to have a hospital at the end of every road, but we can't afford that. Actually, I'd like one within 2 miles would be quite nice. I don't think it needs to be at the end of my road. They just try and bamboozle everyone with their lies, and the thing is, we have to keep passing this message on, or they will win. And the point is, the media are not representing this enough. And that's one of the problems. But anyway, I've talked too much. Here you go.